Hey Exiles, Chronic Painless here with another update to the Blade Vortex build guide. We're now a month into the Archnemesis League, and I'm still having a great time blasting on this build, so I wanted to pass on a few more tips and tricks to help you have an even better time with the best ability in Path of Exile. The first thing I want to talk about is Brittle Ground. Brittle Ground is enabled by a Searing Exarch implicit on boots, and it applies a debuff that gives plus 5% base critical strike chance to all hits against affected targets. Like Scorching Ground, which I mentioned in an earlier video, Brittle Ground is great for Blade Vortex because our primary strategy against bosses is to run right up next to them and then run circles around them to dodge their spells and attacks. This means very powerful enemies will almost always have the debuff applied to them, even at the lesser rank with its shorter duration. Plus 5% base critical strike chance is an enormous boost, dwarfing the 1.8% that would be provided by a Hatred Watcher's Eye or the 2% from an elevated Hunter's mod on body armor. Normally, applying Brittle would require Secrets of Suffering, but that means giving up the ability to chill or freeze our enemies, and that's something we would never want to do on this build. With Brittle Ground, we can achieve 100% chance to crit with barely any investment in critical strike chance, besides what we would normally get from stacking power charge. The next thing I want to talk about are some skill and support gem upgrades you can look for when you have a few exalts to spend on the build. Naturally, Awakened gems will always be superior to their non-awakened counterparts, but there are two that stand out as particularly useful for our build. These are Awakened Unleash and Awakened Cold Penetration. These gems stand out because they get bonuses at level 5 that synergize very well with our build. Awakened Unleash at level 5 provides a 4th seal. This is the magic number for Blade Vortex and enables us to ditch Caster Mastery on the passive tree. Level 5 Awakened Cold Penetration gives a chance to apply cold exposure on hit, which means we can ditch Frostbomb, saving us hassle on bosses and a skill gem slot. As for alternate quality gems, I've already talked about the power of Anomalous Assassin's Mark, especially when paired with Ashes of the Stars, but there's another anomalous gem that's arguably even more potent, Herald of Purity. The number one thing we miss as an occultist as opposed to an elementalist is the presence of the taunting and tanking minion that our golems provided. Anomalous Herald of Purity fills the void left by our golems and often trivializes some of the most difficult bosses in the game as our infinitely respawning sentinels tank for us. Finally, I want to talk about Seal Mender, the final version of our passive. As I mentioned in the original guide video, the most important thing about making a Blade Vortex build feel good in 3.17 is having 4 Unleash seals and exceeding the minimum skill duration seal generation ratio of 2. At first, we did this by stacking skill duration from both the Helm enchant and the passive tree. While this did the job, it wasn't the most efficient use of passive points, requiring us to spec down into an awkward part of the tree without many nearby benefits. Of course, increasing the numerator is only one way to improve a ratio. The other is to decrease the denominator, in this case, our maximum seal generation time. That's where Seal Mender comes. Seal Mender is a cluster notable that we can acquire from either a large gem with spell damage or a Megalomaniac. I definitely recommend looking for a Megalomaniac. It's extremely easy to find one with at least one other good notable, and often you can get 2. With Seal Mender and Awakened Unleash level 5, our maximum seal generation time is just over 2 seconds. This means we need a skill duration of just over 4 seconds plus some cushion. Blade Vortex naturally has a skill duration of 4 seconds, so with our 30% Helm enchant, we have all the cushion we need to cruise around at 10 blades easily. Once we no longer need to spec into skill duration, we can unlock the final form of our passive tree, which includes 2 fully fleshed out large clusters, 4 medium clusters, all of the power charges, nearly all the mana reservation, and a substantial amount of maximum life. This enables us to bring back Zealotry, or add Determination and Defiance banner if you hadn't decided to tank up yet. Improving the build past this point is an expensive undertaking, but it should be strong enough to trivialize virtually all the content in the game at this point, and even clear wave 30 of the simulacrum. That's all for the first month update. I'll be back next week with some more tips and tricks about truly min-maxing this build.